Order, please. The Chair recognises the Honourable Member for Harbour Grace Portagrave.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's certainly it's great to be back, of course, after a long summer and a fall. And it's certainly an honour to stand here today to give my maiden speech. It's an honour and privilege to stand here in the House of Assembly as the representative for the strong district of Harbour Grace Portagrave. Firstly, I would like to wish each and every one of you a warm congratulations on becoming elected to represent your districts. And of course, for some of you, it's a successful re-election. I grew up in Spaniards Bay. I was fortunate to experience a beautiful childhood with my parents Anne and Wayne Parsons and my younger sister Erin. I can remember the very first day of what I consider to be my life career. And this moment was my first day of kindergarten. As I recall, prior to the school year, my mom, Dad, and Erin and I went out shopping for all the supplies I would need, my clothing, of course, my Cabbage Patch book bag at the time. I remember we would meet friends while out and about, and when chatting with my Mom proudly said, "Yes, Pamela will be starting school soon." And then I was asked, "Are you excited? Are you looking forward to it, going to school?" And I would say abruptly, "No." At this time, I knew my change in my routine was coming. My mornings of Sesame Street, nutrition snacks prepared by Mom, and following her around as she completed her daily routines were coming to an end. And finally, that first day of school arrived. I started at Holy Redeemer School in Spaniards Bay, and Mrs. Joyce Bishop was my teacher. I had my Care Bear with me. My mom and Erin were also there. I remember the meet and greet with the teacher and the other students. And then the time came to take our seats. The parents were leaving, but I wouldn't agree to that. That's right, my mom and Erin, my sister, spent my first day of kindergarten with me and my class. I wouldn't let them leave. And just as that first day of kindergarten, my family have been behind me, supporting me in everything I do throughout my life. As each one of us here in this honorable house, we each know firsthand we could have not made it to here, to this very moment where we are, without the support and dedication of our families and our friends and the people who believe in us. I remember when I very first thought about politics and about someday offering myself to the public to run, to hopefully become the representative for the people. It was in political science class when listening to the professor's lecture on Pierre Elliott Trudeau at the time. As we know, it is common for university students to change their mind a few times before determining the right direction with regards to a major. I changed mine several times, but it was when I first attended my first political science class when I knew I was home. And shortly after, I declared my major in political science for my degree, and I knew then that someday I would run. It was during my time as a student at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax, during summers when I was a tour guide on the Harbour Hopper. The Harbour Hopper is an amphibious tour in Halifax, featuring land and water. The vehicle used is called a Lark. It's a lighter amphibious resupply cargo. They were used in Vietnam. And like a frog, a boat, or the truck, it toured the historic downtown area and then plunged into the Halifax Harbour, the second largest natural harbour in the world next to Sydney, Australia. It was during my time as a tour guide when I realized I like to talk for a living to an audience. Upon graduation at university, I felt I needed to do something else. Throughout my childhood and my high school career, I've always dreamt about being on TV, working in the broadcast industry. So following my completion of my degree at Mount St. Vincent University, I applied to the Radio Television Arts program at Nova Scotia Community College, King's Tech, which is located in the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia. I then went on to start my program where I majored in journalism. The Radio Television Arts program was a 2-year discipline. It was an amazing program where I studied television production, radio production, and journalism, broadcasting for both mediums. Some of the best times in my life were had during this time of my academic career. In the second year, graduation was fast approaching, and I felt that gravitational pull, as most Newfoundlanders feel, of course, when we're abroad, wherever we are, to return home to Newfoundland. I knew without doubt that this is where I wanted to be, to utilize my skills and, of course, my education. I had 3 work term placements at CBC TV in Halifax, CBC Radio in Halifax, and CBC TV Atlantic in Halifax as a student. But I put all my energy and focus on applying for employment back home here in Newfoundland. I was hired at CBC Here and Now in St. John's by Doug Leto in 2006 as a summer relief journalist, where I stayed actually for 2 years, reporting both for TV and radio at the CBC. And at the time, in 2006, CBC Radio was located down in the old building on Duckworth Street here in St. John's. Soon, an opportunity at Rogers TV Out of the Fog came up, and I accepted the contract. And it was during this year, while reporting for Out of the Fog, when I was offered a producer position at Rogers TV in Owen Sound, Ontario. I knew it was a valuable experience, but I also knew that I wanted to be in Newfoundland. So prior to leaving for Ontario, I contacted Fred Hutton at NTV and arranged a meeting, and I explained how I was going away to avail of this experience, but eventually I want to come back home. And when I do, I'd like to work at NTV. So of course I kept in touch with Fred. He heard from me frequently. And within that year, an opportunity at NTV, Newfoundland Broadcasting, brought me back home to our province. And once again, I was homeward bound to embark on another leg of my journey. My job as a reporter and a video journalist was to gather facts, truth, and communicate with people. And in this way, I believe journalism and politics are the same. It is our duty as an MHA to communicate and present the truth and facts, of course, to each and every one of our constituents. During my time as a journalist, I was approached, actually, to run for a PC nomination in the district of then Portagrave. This was during the 2011 election period. I wasn't quite ready to leave my journalism career at that time. The timing wasn't right, and I felt it wasn't quite the right fit for me. So instead of running in the election, I continued reporting and covered the election live that year from then Sean Skinner's headquarters. Right, Jerry? But as time passed, of course, my desire to become involved in the public grew stronger and stronger. Remembering my university days in Halifax and the lessons on Pierre Elliott Trudeau, I felt in my heart and soul that the liberal philosophy and culture best matched my own personal values. I made the decision to jump into the political world. I was hired to work on the robust 2013 leadership campaign, and following this, I made the decision that I was going to seek the nomination in my home district of Portagrave. There were 6 strong candidates in total, and it was a long summer. With the help of my supporters, of course, my family, and my team, I secured the nomination. Some other colleagues who have become some of my best friends. Of course, the member for Placentia St. Mary's and the member for Placentia, Bellevue, Placentia West Bellevue, Mark Sherry, and Cape St. Francis, of course. Well, they've had similar experiences with their nominations. And finally, the 3 of us secured our place to carry the banner for the upcoming election. But to our surprise, we quickly learned that the nominations would once again open due to an abrupt electoral boundary change to be squeezed in just before voters went to the polls. So it was time to tackle yet another storm. And like the weather in our great province that we call home, politics, as we know, can be very unpredictable. But fortunately, of course, we made it here, and here we are to do the very best for our people. The strong district of Harbour Grace, Portagrave consists of many communities, colorful communities, such as Hibbs Cove, Portagrave, Barroneed, Coley's Point, Bay Roberts, Country Road, Otterbury, Shearstown, Butlerville, Spaniards Bay, Tilton, Bishop's Cove, Upper Island Cove, Bryan's Cove, South Side, Harbour Grace, Riverhead, and the Thicket. And each town is enriched with history and pride and a true sense of community. As I've gotten to know my constituents, of course, traveling around for the past several years, while working on the nomination, of course, and the election campaign, and then becoming the MHA for the district, I've witnessed the strong sense of community spirit firsthand. Let me tell you, if someone falls on hard times in any community, those communities, they come together, and boy, we band together, and that help is delivered. There's a lot of great history as well in the district of Harbour Grace, Portagrave. As a matter of fact, the first time that the Stanley Cup came to the province, it was Riverhead Harbour Grace native Danny Cleary who brought that cup home here to our island for the very first time. We also have a gold medalist from Harbour Grace, who happens to be my cousin, Mr. Jamie Corab. Amelia Earhart, of course, graced her presence in Harbour Grace. Peter Easton, and of course, our district has a strong connection to the fishery, both the inshore and the offshore.
Order, please. Order, please.
And of course, also, as we know, with a strong connection to the fishery and to the ocean in Harbour Grace, Portagrave, I would like to take the time to recognize and to thank our Trudeau-led federal government, the great relationship that we have with our federal government, the reopening of the Maritime Rescue Subcentre, which is very important. And as a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, there was a young fish harvester from the community of Portagrave who quickly realized how important it is to have a good, strong team of search and rescue here in our province. As we remember, I was a journalist at the time when the Harper government ordered that our Maritime Rescue Subcentre be closed down at a cost savings of only $1 million. I remember when Quebec was also slated to lose their Maritime Rescue Subcentre. That didn't happen. However, we sure lost ours. I was a journalist. I was assigned to cover the rallies and the stories leading up, and it was amazing to witness firsthand how Newfoundlanders and Labradorians came together to rally for that important cause. Of course, because as we know, it's an essential service that we need, and of course we live here in a beautiful province surrounded by water, so who better to need those services than Newfoundlanders and Labradorians? So of course, it was a great day last week to hear our counterparts, Minister Dominic LeBlanc, and of course Minister Foote and our Premier there to reopen that centre. So a round of applause for that. And thank God for the great relationship that we do have with, of course, our federal counterparts, the Trudeau government. Not only is politics a blood sport, as they say, it is a team sport. No one can get elected all by themselves. I would like to sincerely thank Ivy Anthony, who has strongly supported me from the very beginning, George and Donna Warford, Debbie Hutchings, Mike and Paula Reynolds, Reuben Peach, Kay, Jordan, and John Crane, Donna and Mike Hewson, Patrick Whalen, Hayward Butler, Judy McCarthy, Carol Hunt, Rosalind Greenland. Now, a little story about Rosalind. Rosalind is a lady. She was an older lady living in Coley's Point, her and her husband Gordon. And they were strong Liberals. Of course, they have a long history of supporting. And I must say, they stood behind me, and they were amazing. Unfortunately, however, they both passed away from the time I started as a candidate to the time I became an MHA. But I know that they're still here in spirit, and I'm really grateful for the support that I had from them. I also would like to thank Mr. Howie Smith and Marilyn Smith, Lori Lynn and Daryl Sharp, Eileen Smith, my constituency assistant, and of course our office is located in Bay Roberts, Glenn Thorne, Ken Leday, Ryan Steves, Tonya Power, and the many supporters who helped me in every way. I certainly could not have done it without you. And we got out there in all sorts of weather, because we experienced every season a couple of times before it was time that election was finally called. To my family, my mom, dad, and Erin, my circle of genuine support started with you. And this started the day I was born. I'm blessed to have you. To my grandmother, Nora Healy, I'm grateful at age 94 you are still here to see me in the House of Assembly, and to have been there by my side on the nights of my nomination and my election. My other grandmother, Emmy Parsons, passed away at age 68 when I was in university. But I'll never forget, she used to babysit us, my sister and I. And me being, I guess, a mommy's girl, when I would go to bed when Nanny was babysitting, and I figured the sooner I went to bed, and when I woke up, my parents would be back home. But that necessarily wasn't the case at just 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I can remember those nights. Nanny was babysitting. And I would come down over the stairs to see her watching Peter Mansbridge, the news. She was I'll never forget her keen interest in news and politics. And although she is gone from this world, I know she's still watching me. Colleagues, whether we think we can or we think we can't, we are right. Because what we dream about, what we think about, we can bring about. I sincerely believe that. And to all the young women out there, the young girls with dreams of taking on careers, their wildest dreams, whatever they want, I encourage you, don't ever give up on those dreams or aspirations. Have your courage. We may have setbacks, we may make mistakes, but we'll learn from them. They make us strong. They contribute to the people that we become. And I am proud to say that I am the very first female representative, female MHA for the district of Harbour Grace, Portagrave. So, of course, by working together, we achieve the greatest results. To my caucus team and to my colleagues across the House, I am committed to working with each and every one of you to do the best we can for our province. To the Harbour Grace Portagrave District, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It is a true blessing to be your MHA. I look forward and I hope to work with you for many years to come. And the promise I will make to you is that I will work hard, I will be honest, I'll be your voice, and I will certainly do the best I can. We will accomplish wonderful things from infrastructure, agriculture, and our fishery. And I look forward to finally celebrate the day when we have our long-anticipated Coley's Point Primary School. So, colleagues, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.